It's a pleasure to be here in this session. My name is Manoj. I am CEO and CTO of AIShield. Today, I am going to talk about how to navigate the generative AI revolution. And my specific focus is going to be how to make the LLMs compliant and safe and secure for enterprise adoption. Before I jump into the topic, let me just give you a quick understanding about what all the different issues are there with generative AI. Many of you are fully aware about it. However, this will be a kind of a refresher. So we all have seen the news items like privacy issues with ChatGPT, prone to open source code related vulnerabilities, privacy threats. Essentially, the generative AI has become a double-edged sword where there is a lot of benefits, but it also comes with a lot of risk which are there. And surprisingly, the generative AI has navigated so fast that once which was thought about the savior in terms of technology, now Gartner's recent survey of August 8 shows that generative AI has become an emerging risk for enterprises, and it is among the top 5. That's a very steep evolution from benefit to the risk. Why did that happen? That happened because what we have seen is that generative AI is being utilized in many of the core functions like sales, customer success related things with chatbot, marketing communications, product related aspect, finance, IT, HR operations, and R&D. This is from the recent report which AIIA published on enterprise generative AI adoption. Now, there is a widespread adoption, and with every use case that is being adopted, there are multiple issues are coming up in these early days. And this was also reflected in the same report, where key challenges or blockers for adopting this generative AI were cited with respect to security and compliance, performance and cost, governance, data, customization, and flexibility. And what you see here is that the performance cost and the security compliance and the governance together takes the top spot. And why it is happening is because there are so many risks. One of the risks which are there are the ethical risks that essentially has a biased, harmful, or offensive or not adhering to guideline output which LLMs are generating causes a brand and reputation damage. The data privacy and confidentiality breach that we have seen previously happens mainly with training models with sensitive or confidential or personal information are utilized in the model training. And this has a legal and compliance issues. The third one is the IP infringement risk, which are there. That is sharing your proprietary knowledge with model intentionally or unintentionally. And this can have a loss of competitive advantage as well. And fourth one is the security vulnerability risk. That is, it is susceptible to data breaches or cyber attacks. And this can have an impact on financial and reputational losses. Below are the two references which gives a light on all of these issues. And if you want to learn more, you can also visit our website where we have a complete series of blogs which specifically talks about the various risks which are there. Now, all of this risk, there are various ways to mitigate it. And 90% of the organizations who wants to use it, they have a plan to implement policies specific to adoption of generative AI in enterprises or implement internal policies around its usage. And when we say about these policies have multiple aspects. There are organizational policy aspects, and then there are technical controls of these particular policies. Both of them are needed. And here is where what we see that organizations are deciding to balance out the risks. They have today two options in terms of simple policies: prohibit the use of an LLMs, so no risk of this thing, which is good. But at the same time, you'll not be able to compete in the market where everyone else is using it. It's like that famous saying that it's not AI which is going to replace you, it is a person or the organization which is using AI is going to replace you. And that is a real risk. On the other side, you can use the LLMs as it is and gain all the benefits, but at the same time, then you will have to assume all the risks. And there has to be in a better way rather than this binary choices. This is where the balance is needed. And organizations are thinking that the policies are some of the best way to strive for the balances. But without the technical controls are in place and without having a deeper understanding of the risk, these policies are not going to yield the result which organizations are thinking. And therefore, there is a need for a balance which is there. In summary, what we see is that to safeguard the enterprises, we need to build in a guardrails and we have to use the guardrails. A training and awareness for your personals, which is one of the first recommendation, implementation of this recommendation to mitigate risk and build guardrails. These are very important. And these guardrails are essentially to mitigate various risks like ethical risk, data privacy, IP, and security vulnerabilities. And there are various ways to do this. We have learned in our journey in the last 8 months with various customers and partners that what it takes to safeguard the enterprises and have this effective guardrails implemented from technology point of view. That is where we have built an AIShield.GuArdIan, which is a guardrail for safe and secure use of LLMs in enterprises, no matter where they are hosted, no matter how you are utilizing it. It acts as a solution to safeguard your organization as per your policies and deliver all the benefits that you have envisioned. Now, to talk more about this particular topic of Guardian, I'll introduce Yuvraj. Yuvraj, please take.
Hello, all. I'm glad to be presenting on this topic together with Manoj. Thank you, Manoj, for that introduction. Jumping directly into the topic of AI Shield. AI Shield is a one-stop AI security solution ensuring secure and trustworthy AI. To give a quick overview of AI Shield has a global presence with a motto of securing AI systems for the world. There are two major topics or offerings under AI Shield. One being AI Shield's AI security, the namesake itself, which is the vulnerability assessment of AI models. And then the second one, which is the topic that we are talking today, which is AIShield.GuArdIan. AIShield.GuArdIan is a guardrail for safe and compliant use of generative AI in enterprise setting. AIShield.GuArdIan. So we spoke about the recommendations for adoption of generative AI in enterprises, the policies that are typical for different organizations. How do we comply with it? That is what Guardian is about, is secure and compliant deployment of LLMs in your enterprises. The benefits being compliance with the policies and the rules of the organization, protection of intellectual properties, safeguarding against PII and private information, for also responsible and careful experimentation within the organization. Of course, the benefits including automation and productivity gains. Guardian, in short, sits in your organization's ecosystem between the user and the LLM. The user interacts typically like he would do with an LLM, but Guardian in between takes care of several aspects. Some of the blocks here, as we saw, are IP protection, safeguarding PII information, and content moderation, which are some of the major highlights. The blocks that are also there, we will get into the specifics of that, which include role policy mapping, logging for observability, auditing, etc. API interface to use with several kinds of LLM, prompt assessment against typically known jailbreaks or vulnerabilities that are already explored and things like that. How does the solution diagram look like? So the user and being the one end of the ecosystem, on the other hand, is the LLM. The user queries the LLM in a typical query and then gets the response. Guardian, sitting in between, monitors the input query and also the response from the large language model, which is the response. Now, there are different set of policies, different set of rules that can be configured for the input policy checks and also for the output policy check. On the right-hand side, you see a working solution and representative example where the user asks a query which is against the policy violation. You can see that the input is blocked, and you also get a message there. In addition to the overall message, there is also the logging backend, which says what is the reason behind that query being blocked. Is it a policy violation against harmful information, or is it an IP infringement violation, and so on? So that reasoning is also together available as part of the logging. How to get started with Guardian is that Guardian is easy to integrate, available as a ready-made Python SDK with configurable LLM. So you could say which is the target LLM that you are using, the important configurations like API interface and so on. That is the first step. Second, you will also have a policy mapping 3x3 framework, which I will talk in short in a moment. Dynamic policy and enforcement. That is, you can say, okay, you have seen that there are more users who are using a certain kind of query. That policies can be implemented. Logging of all the violations, also for explainability sake for later, and observability and auditing as well. Works across different kinds of LLMs and deployments, and also as partial support for large vision models as well. Now, let's consider a use case. In this case, let's say a healthcare use case where the personnel in the hospital, they would like to use it for different reasons. And we can see that there are different roles in an organization. Typical to a IAM, identity and access management, where each role will have specific access to a specific asset. A similar view is presented here. So a given role, let's say R1 in this case, which is the doctor, is associated with certain use case, certain queries that he could ask. So the input matrix, as you see, is configured for what sort of input should the role one, which is the doctor, be prevented from, and what is he allowed to use. The same question, which is not so relevant for a doctor, might be important for the compliance officer to understand how the target LLM is working, and for auditing purposes as well. Then for such a user, the same matrix is configured differently, where the compliance officer is able to directly check what are the outcome from the LLM. Using such a matrix, let's say the view, for example, is this. For the doctor, he asks a specific question, and the question here being considered harmful, the response is not given from the LLM. In the second case, where the compliance officer is asking the same question, there is a response from the large language model. That was an example of healthcare organization with different roles and having different policies. With that example, it also extends, as you might imagine, for banking, which is a really important area, domain, and for other use cases as well. Some of the use cases include virtual assistant, document search and retrieval, LLM-assisted software development as well. Further in detail with the technical details of the Guardian, this is a representative deployment architecture that you're looking at. On the left-hand side is the user, on the other side is the large language model. The major components here are the decision blocks, foundational models, and the prompt engineering. This forms the Guardian core. The foundational blocks has the Guardian LLM, which is fine-tuned for domain-specific applications and for specific policies as well. This domain-specific are fine-tuned in a way that it performs best for the policies relevant for a specific domain. This forming the central core. There's also the classification model, which are protecting against profanity, bias, not safe for work content, and so on. The prompt pattern assessment helps in assessing known jailbreaks and to look at similarities and signatures related to the attacks. The aggregated results from these modules are then used to either decide to block or let a query in. The component coordination LLM adapter make sure that the Guardian is able to work with different kinds of LLM. The policy table with role mapping gives the role to policy mapping, as you can see the example below, which is the 3x3 matrix, a simple example. The data logger helps in observability, auditability, and also for future explainability aspects as well. This can also go together with the vector database. Some of the results from our internal experiments, which are, let's say, for jailbreaks. Now, given a specific jailbreak, now that we have multi-layered components, the components complement each other to get the net result. You see, when we had, so these are some of the examples with Azure OpenAI and some other target LLM that we had used with and without Guardian. You can significantly see that when Guardian is active, more number of jailbreaks are detected, and hence the query does not go through. With prompt assessment, it even enhances the capability of Guardian that you see close to 98% and 100% respectively are blocked. The components, like I said, once again, they complement each other to address all the different needs for different policies, different rules, and also the explainability reasoning part of it as well. This is how the example looks like with the jailbreak. There are certain inputs, and then the input is blocked, considering that the jailbreak matches the signature, that matches the pattern assessment that we have in place together with the Guardian LLM. So this is a comprehensive list of the different features and support that we have for Guardian. Some of the things include multilingual support against jailbreaks, also the logging, the part related to SDK, and so on. So this is the comprehensive list. Now, in the first half, we have seen that there is this dilemma to bring the use of LLM or to completely ban it, and hence we have to strike the balance between it. And how does somebody do that? Although there is the intent to implement it, and the solution is having Guardian. Guardian providing these guardrails for the enterprise applications, domain-specific ones for targeted policies and rules to help LLM for enterprises to deploy these LLM. In summary, Guardian protects against these risks and also help safe, secure, and compliant deployment of large language models. Use Guardian with your generative AI models and unlock your business potential. Thank you for this opportunity. You have been a wonderful audience, and I am very glad to be presenting once again on this topic. Thank you.